6, 8, 9,
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
These are the stakes. To make a world in which all of God's children can live, or to go into the dark. We must either love each other, or we must die.
The curtain rises on the greatest military experiment ever undertaken, the atom bomb tests at Bikini. The battleship Pennsylvania drops anchor in the lagoon.
The Bikini Atoll, a ring-shaped coral reef, is a relatively isolated part of the Marshall Islands, whose inhabitants primarily relied on the land's fertile soil and the lagoon's rich array of sea life for survival. As the first colonists arrived from Europe in the 19th century and later Japan in the 20th century, the islands became valuable ports and were exploited as coconut plantations. When the U.S. took the islands from Japan in 1944 during World War II, the islands became an ideal site for nuclear testing. Development of nuclear bombs began during the Manhattan Project under the direction of General Leslie Groves, backed up by the scientific mind of Dr. Robert Oppenheimer in 1942. The early bombs of this era were nuclear fission bombs, or simply atomic bombs. In 1945, these were the bombs dropped on Japan in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Later, a new bomb was developed in 1952 called the fusion, or hydrogen bomb. 4 major operations were conducted. A total of 23 nuclear bombs were dropped at the atoll, the equivalent of 79 million tons of TNT. In 1946, Operation Crossroads was the first to use nuclear bombs since Nagasaki. It sought to investigate the effects the bombs had on warships.
When they put those lot of ships out there to see if it would sink them and all that stuff, they to see what the damage was, and they anchored them all further and further away from the blast site to see what would happen.
Right.
It made a mess of everything.
Yeah.
2 atomic bombs were dropped. Operation Castle, 1954, was an attempt to design an aircraft deliverable hydrogen bomb. 5 hydrogen bombs were tested. Operation Red Wing, 1956, 5 hydrogen bombs. Operation Hard Track 1, 11 bombs. For the test to occur, the U.S. government had to ask the 167 inhabitants of the atoll to leave. Just over 100 years earlier, the Cherokees were forced to Oklahoma in what would become known as the Trail of Tears. Both groups were exploited for their land, and the ordeal killed many.
The United States government now wants to attempt to turn this great destructive force into something good for mankind, and that these experiments here at Bikini are the first step in that direction.
The Bikini Islanders were moved to the uninhabited Rongerik Atoll, a place only 1/6 the size of the Bikini Atoll. Many consider the island to be too small and haunted by evil spirits. Their fears proved to be true, as food shortages began to plague the residents. They remained on the island from 1946 to 1948 until they were relocated to the also uninhabited and small Kili Island, where they had to give up their traditional lagoon fishing-based lifestyle and diet. Despite moving to new islands, they were not safe from radiation on Bikini. In 1954, a nuclear bomb, Bravo, was dropped on the atoll, but due to wind conditions that the scientists were aware of, the fallout carried over to Rongerik, where many Bikini Islanders still resided. Children returned home, experiencing vomiting and diarrhea. Their hair began falling out. It was only 2 days after that they were taken to another island for treatment. In 1969, the government began an initiative to move the Bikini people back to their islands. 3 families temporarily returned to the islands until it was revealed in 1978 that the island was in fact not safe for inhabitants, so they were forced to leave once again. During this time, the islanders were able to secure a few legal victories that provided them with trust funds to help support themselves and get medical treatment, such as the 1975 Hawaiian Trust Fund for the People of Bikini and the 1982 Resettlement Trust Fund for the People of Bikini. It was only until 2001, when the Nuclear Claims Tribunal was created, that a meaningful attempt to clean the atoll was initiated. However, due to budgetary cuts, only 2 of the $563 million was given. In 2006, the islands filed a lawsuit in the U.S. Court of Federal Claims to get the remaining money. Their request was not answered, and the case was refused by the U.S. Supreme Court in 2010. Only 25 of the original 167 Bikini Islanders are still living. Nuclear waste is not just an issue for the atoll, but the Marshall Islands as a whole. Waste from the test, such as plutonium-239, one of the most toxic substances known to man, was dumped into a crater in 1980, and an 18-inch layer of concrete was poured on top as a temporary measure. No other effort has been made to move the material. In May 2019, cracks were discovered on the dome. There is now concern that some of the nuclear waste could leak and contaminate the surrounding Pacific Ocean. The islands have also become less sustainable homes for all Marshall Islanders as global warming has led to ocean levels rising. Kili Island has become an extreme place of concern. A third of the people living on the Marshall Islands as a whole have left for the United States. With increasing pollution, rising sea levels, and an overconsumption of finite resources, our island of Earth may no longer be able to sustain us. Where will we go next? Mars? Space? Let us not look to the stars, but look to the Bikini Atoll.
A little island which has for so long meant so little to the world, and now means so much. Bikini, the Atom Island.